comfortable, either on your knees or the mudra of meditation, right hand over left, thumbs touching. And I'm mostly doing this for me, and I appreciate your patience with me. Just so that I, hopefully you, are completely healed. We can leave behind all our concerns and cares that came about earlier in the day. Just be completely present. Thank you all for that. Appreciate it. So to begin, do you mind if we go around and just everybody says their first name before we begin our first exercise? So I'm Karen.
I'm Michael.
Mark. Sarah. Thank you.
Marlon.
Thank you all and welcome. Thanks for being here. So what I'd like to start us out with is, in this guide, behind Katie Small's lovely...
Sorry, I was talking to my
Oh.
with my hands. I said I was going to close this so that we can see you on the screen.
So it is, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There you
Yeah.
Oh,
there you
wow.
That's, excuse me.
Thank you, Michael.
Now it's all for Matt. Anything I did. So in your book, behind Katie Small's guide, you'll find fields of teaching, and I'd like you to just take out a pen, or here's a pen if you need a pen. And just begin filling that out. It's just those 7 questions. 7, I guess, being a lucky number. I don't know why I stopped at 7. But I think that these are some of the things to consider if you think, especially if you're thinking about a career in teaching. So just to read the instructions, although you may have considered your future dreams and plans many times, it's sometimes helpful to write these ideas down. It's almost as if writing a thing down makes it more tangible and brings your dreams to fruition. With the goal in mind of mapping out your strategy to make your dreams come true, just spend the next few moments responding to the following. The first being, is a teaching career your primary goal or a secondary career along with other jobs? If it's a secondary career goal, what are the other positions that you'll also pursue? Number 2, will you teach in the San Francisco Bay Area, move to another part of the state, move out of state or out of the United States? Where? Because that kind of helps you think about your job search and where you're going. Number 3, what are the main areas that you're interested in teaching? For example, are you interested in teaching in the humanities, women's studies, religious studies, philosophy? Apparently, I was just listing my areas of interest. 4, would you like to teach, for example, undergrads, grads, adults, or other populations? So who would you like to teach? Excuse me. 5, in what environment would you like to teach? For example, would you like to be in a more urban environment in the heart of the city, something more suburban, rural, online? These are things to think about. 6, in what type of institution do you envision teaching? For example, private, public, large, small, or will you create your own school or institution? And 7, when will you become a teacher? And you can use the back of the sheet to map out a 3 to 5 year plan with the goal toward teaching. And we'll do this, let's say we'll spend about 6 minutes doing this. Give you a strange amount of time so you can't figure it out in your head. So just begin. I'd appreciate it. I thought it was a little funky when I came in. Will it get too loud, you think?
Not up here, I think. They're so far away.
It might be the, yeah,
Sometimes they seal the windows.
but you can have it up.
We just did that to Felicia.
Does there have construction?
Well, that explains why it is kind of. You just need a big straw.
Okay for everybody?
Yeah, that's great.
Sure. This might be the seal. This one's seal.
Man, are you participating?
I am not participating right now. I am here to observe the workshop if that's going. I'm not interested in a job
You don't regret that decision. Can you tell I teach undergrads? That's part of it. Call them out. Call them out all the time.
Well, Michael probably already has enough jobs. I think.
You did.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. You do defend those eyes, so that's good.
I work with my land and career in the career development office here at SAS.
So now they fill it with 2 people?
Sort of.
I mean, it was Audra and an assistant, and
Audra had an assistant.
yeah.
In addition to you as a student?
Yeah, she had Leah. No, before I was the assistant after Leah. So. Audra flew off.
My land has been helping us out tremendously since then. But I wanted to come because I know this is such a strong interest in research students is teaching.
Yeah. And teaching school. Very poorly compensated.
That's most of the good jobs, right?
How are people doing? 1 more minute, you think? You done?
Yeah, I'm not interested in teaching either. I didn't know it was particularly.
Oh,
I mean, it's fine.
Did you want to do a CV? Why did you want to do the CV?
Well, I'm at the PhD level, so just to get funding for. I want to do activist work. So
So you can still fill that out with that in mind, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So if you haven't completed it, feel free to take it home and complete it later. But what I'd like you to do now, just take a moment and think of a few sentences that summarize what it is you'd like to do regarding your teaching career. Just think of just a couple of words, or just a couple of sentences that really state what it is you want to do, your elevator pitch, as they say. People have that in mind?
This goes on the CV, or this is just food for thought?
This is food for thought. You're doing this because it tells you how to pitch your CV. Because you're pitching a CV.
Because I do have a couple of sentences I called it personal profile.
Mm-hmm.
It's called in my CV.
Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is partner up. And my sixth person left, so. But what I wanted you to do was partner up and talk about what it is you'd like to do regarding the field. And what I wanted you to do was to listen uninterrupted to the other person. Are you leaving too?
Thank you. I know I have to actually go back.
You had to go
class.
too?
Well, they were doing something else, and I didn't want to go to it, so I just thought I'd sit down here
Thank
for
you.
a minute.
Well, I hope what's in the guides are
Yeah, it
Useful
is helpful
to
because I
you.
checked it out.
yeah,
Did
good.
you stick my
Yeah, you can have it.
Because I took my map. But it's okay.
And
Yes.
the recording will be made available online as well.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh,
we're
thanks.
recording it right
And what you'll see in the tips and guides is if you're going for a more research institution, how to gear your CV toward that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you, though.
It's okay, because my dear friend that has a lot of experience in workshops knows this is like par for the course. So with those that are left, and then there were 3. Well, Maylin, did you fill it out?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, great. So you can partner with Matt.
Yeah, I did.
And Heidi, you can partner with Wendy. Thank you. You said the easier name for me to remember it. You changed it, didn't you? Didn't you give me another name first? Or you always said Wendy?
Things go, I go my way. But it's
Yeah.
not my
It's all I can handle. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'll just let Michael sit here. And so what I'd like you to do is to just spend a moment listening to one another. I don't know if you've done this exercise, you probably have. So just decide which partner will go first. And then for a minute, that person will tell you everything that they want to share about what they want to do regarding teaching. And then after a minute, we'll switch, and then the other person will tell you. And so, and while you're listening, don't interject. Don't do anything. Just listen. Just be a sounding board. Okay?
Oh, sure. Nice. Because I also teach my ask some comments, questions, so I'll just leave it a link, and if they wanted a copy, give it to them. But yeah, to create workshops. Getting off the ground, you know, as a professor, trying to build up my CV so I can be someone who's better for a full-time teacher. I'm grateful that CAS is giving me such opportunities, and I also see myself living the Bay Area at some time, you know, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, because I imagine myself working with a more mainstream university, you know, like a state school, or a community college, bringing equal education to there.
So is the first partner done? So if the first partner is done, thank your partner for listening. And then switch to the next partner.
Teacher comes in and different forms of sound. So maybe you could supporting the system, even facilitating also
What's what?
there's been some support that's not been traditionally looked at as a psychology background, but it's there. It's back to my like the experience actually about things that there's a lot of it's also kind of like also like contributed to share. So that system there's a certain aspect that I want to share. So teaching professional there could be different ways that you do it. I would be very educational writing or something that if I so this organization and the BBC program, there's a lot of things like when I was going through the BBC program, I realized I've been with for 2 years and just finally finished my own bachelor's. And so it wasn't so much about the title of the career, it was because wow, this entire time in my life it's happened, it's not being conditional on that title. So what do I do? What do I do with it? So that was one perspective. Other perspective, like, hey, what do I do? How do I share it? And that necessarily just associating with whatever exactly was, but more than the like experience of what happens in the future. So I think that was a very big like, whoa, okay, cool. So that's created like a whole world of opportunities and I don't know how to quantify that. And right at this moment, I'm still completely just open to like I need this information still.
She asked me a
Okay.
question. I know.
I do know
Good
that.
ear.
I'm a very, very absolute fast decision.
Like, especially to like school that I was going to do a workshop where I was going to do a workshop.
Pieces of your dissertation and your sources, you might be able to finish it in 2 years. So that will take you 3 or 4 years.
The first thing that was you have like
Maximum.
organization institution in place
So
where
it's like,
share as part of the school. So
So the second partner, begin to wrap it up.
there could be an aspect also of travel that people come from around the world or something like that to have necessarily issues or something. And I shared this actually in person the workshop that like the workshop is like, hey, you let me know because I would love to be like one of your first like one of your first teachers there. And I'm like, okay, what did I just say? Yeah, it's like, well, so there's things that I don't know how will manifest, but I mean are there. Question. Thank you.
Okay, so can the first or the second partner thank your partner for listening? And so let's join the larger group. And now that you've kind of voiced what it is that you're thinking about, what your dreams are, what would you like to share with the larger group? And whoever would like to begin, just a popcorn.
I know where I'm at and I know where I want to go.
And what do you want to
And I
do?
have the steps,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
but I don't know how to leave CIIS. So it seems like if you look at my CV, all my experience is from CIIS, with the exception of like 2 little things before I started here. So
Would it make you more comfortable to leave in baby steps?
yeah, I mean, so what I've been trying to do is figure out, can I get a class at City College, or I haven't been looking in the East Bay because it's not easy for me to travel there, you know, for like 1 hour, 3 times a week, you know, but it's almost like, I don't know if anybody looks at my stuff, because I never even get a call or an automated message, or if I get an automated message, it makes my day.
So that's why you're here. Good. Thank you, Heidi. Who else wants to share? I go, look, let me stare at Wendy then. I'm sorry.
I'm not afraid to make eye contact. I have a mouthful of apples. Okay, fine.
Then you spit it out.
No, I'll go back to it. I'll go back to it. When I was just listening to you, actually, Heidi, something came to me, which is, what if you enjoyed working at CIS and maybe it just wasn't a school for you, it actually ended up being your career? Like, I mean, you talked about all of your experiences, and you're sitting here saying, oh, I've got to make steps in order to go away from it. I mean, who says you have to go away from it unless you have to go away from it? Like, I mean, and then that's a different conversation, which is the idea of like, hey, then maybe you look at the steps towards the idea of like, if you truly enjoy it here, then like make this part of your environment, or see if it meets your needs as far as life and things of that nature, and have that conversation. But that's a different conversation too. So like, you know, but that kept resonating with me when I kept hearing it, because I kept hearing you say it, and I'm like, what's wrong with the idea if all of your experiences are here, and if that's Just
Well,
food for thought.
Well,
But, yeah.
you know, rather than crosstalk,
Yeah.
let's hear about you, Matt.
I think probably one of the biggest things for me is teacher probably comes in very different forms as far as like if I was going to be, if I ever saw myself as a teacher, I would probably be either in an unconventional setting or with unconventional sorts of either philosophy or ideas or expression. Yeah, and so yeah, that's all.
And maybe even create your own school.
Maybe.
I belong to a school that we created ourselves. So we're making a little profit so far, but so it's possible. It's something that's doable.
That's cool.
It is the Institute for Contemporary Buddhist Ministry. Yes, indeed. Haha, you looked at me.
Yeah. No, because the girls' school sounds great.
It's for particularly for chaplaincy, for Buddhist chaplaincy training.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Because I'm Buddhist, so I'm just like, whoa, nice.
Oh.
You teach Pali too?
Yes, we have the Pali Canon. My specialty is Mahayana, but the other teachers are Korean, Bukme, Reverend Bukme and Reverend Hewan. But we can talk about
Okay, yes. That's fascinating. So I'm finishing my grad school here, grad program here as a therapist, expressive art therapy. So for the next few years, I would like to continue that, working in community mental health. But in the long run, I don't want to too much have a PhD. And then I have friends that I'm from Finland, so I have high school friends that would love to join together. Three of us where we wrote proposals and everything to have a program back home to help. First of all, is to have it being the bridge together between high schooler and university, help them with scholarships, and then with company to offer them, sponsoring them on positions and have extra mentoring. And also give them the motivation to really go with what they want to do.
Great, well formed.
So, but I don't know how it's kind of organic right now, but I don't know if I do want to have a PhD before I do that, or it might happen at the same time.
Or you might go into teaching a little while, meet the colleagues that you're going to form this with, and then your life may take a lot of different shapes.
Yeah. So that's the vision for now.
Haley?
So teaching is a thing that comes in and out of my life, but I recently completed a 300-hour yoga teacher training, so I would somehow like to use those skills, and right now I just have one private client, so I'm starting with that, but I would ideally like to create workshops where I bring in a lot of the aspects of the teachings I've been taking through psychology, consciousness studies, dream studies, East-West psychology, and create a workshop for women and how to connect with their inner wild woman through song, dance, yoga.
Moon salutation. It's my favorite. We always do sun. I hate sun.
Don't say good.
No, let me hold back. All right.
Oh, is it? Tell us how you really.
Yeah, I know, because he was afraid I was holding back. Anyway, well, welcome to this workshop. And I'd like to show you some slides to just talk about the cover letter and the CV, because they go hand in hand. A lot of this material is already covered in the tips and guides, or the guides and tips, or whatever, the tips and samples that you have in here. And there's a lot of, about at least four sample CVs. But you don't have this per se. It didn't occur to me to give you this actual PDF, but I could if you want. So when you're applying for teaching positions, typically, which may apply to you too, definitely seems to apply to Heidi, and maybe not so much Maylin. But if you're going for the standard traditional teaching job, what we typically send in is a teaching portfolio. And the teaching portfolio includes the cover letter, the CV, your teaching philosophy statement, the syllabus, student evaluations, letters of rec, and your transcripts. Today we're just going to go over the CV and the cover letter, but I would encourage you to think about your teaching philosophy, no matter what you do, because your teaching philosophy is how you approach the world. It's how you go about, how you approach your students, and how you'll go about teaching. And it's a valuable thing to think about. It's a valuable thing to think about how I want to be a teacher in the classroom, what it is I do, what do I do best. I was surprised that I'm more of a nurturer, because I would have thought, I don't know what I thought. I thought I'd kick my young out of the nest. I don't know. But it's interesting when we do more testing about ourselves and find out more about what the different philosophies are. We're better able to hone or just kind of know who we are. So let's start with the cover letter. So I just put the sample up that you can't really see, but we'll go over each part of it. But this, just giving you this overview, you kind of see what a cover letter looks like, what a typical cover letter looks like. Now we do so much online that I typically send a PDF, because invariably people copy it, people send it. But I also kind of remove all of the fanciness and just put the basics of the letter in an email. So I do both. I do an email and a PDF whenever I'm applying for it. And it includes the heading, your introduction, your argument, your closing. And this specifically comes from Purdue OWL, their online writing lab, which is a wonderful resource for anything you're doing. The OWL, any writing you're doing, I highly recommend that. So let's start with the heading. So whenever possible, try to address your letter to a specific person. And I always think I'm clever when I do research and I find out who is going to be the boss, who's the hiring official. And so I'll address the letter to them, specifically, especially if I know who the boss is going to be. I like to send it straight to the boss, skip the hiring official. But they say that this is what's reputed. If you send it to a specific person, it increases the chances that they'll look at it seriously. I mean, after all, you know their names. So, you know, there's that personal thing going on.
So even if you apply online for the process?
If you can find out a name, find out a name. Do what you can and email them. And well, I would go through the normal processes.
Yeah.
So say they give you something and they say this goes to hr@personnel.org. I would send it to them, but if you get the person's name, CC them and specifically address it to them. Did I move? Did something happen?
Like the weird wording on
Attention.
it.
Your sensitive information is at risk.
I downloaded something, but it's not really. It's just like, hey, pay for this program, kind of thing.
And if you can't find the name of the hiring authority, you might address it, dear hiring professionals, dear hiring committee, dear something generic. But do your best to do the research. research. It'll help you out. So the introduction should include a salutation. And if you're uncertain of the gender, if you're uncertain, just avoid using Mr. or Mrs. A lot of times right now, I'm applying to things that are doctor, and doctor's kind of gender neutral. So I'd say if you don't know, well, what would you do if you can't use Mr. or Mrs.? I'd say if you have the person's full name, to use that. So I'm just trying to think of a name. Chris. Chris is kind of gender neutral. So, dear Chris Roberts, something like that. And in this introduction, talk about your values and goals. So that means, I love teaching. I find magic in the classroom. But it's a value, it's a goal. And tell them how you align with what they're doing. I know you're looking for someone in the humanities. I'm your gal. And how you match the requirements, very briefly, because this is your introductory paragraph. So you just want to grab them. I've got 20 years experience in this field, and I started as a teenager. So I am yet young, but have tons of experience. Hire me. Something like that. Something that'll grab them. And then talk about, and you can see more details in the contents in my cover letter. My cover letter and CV outline all this experience. So that's kind of like, I would say it's not really boilerplate, because you want to be as specific as possible. Your cover letter should specifically address whatever job you're applying for. The cover letter is where you get very personal. Then your argument, it's important, and this is a really bad slide, I should say, by the way. I have far too much information on it, and I apologize. But, just put your glasses on, you can read through it with me. Your argument is an important part of your cover letter because it allows you to persuade your reader. And by argument, we're saying, you're looking for this experience. Well, I've done this at this job, and I've done something similar to it at that job, and this is what I learned. So that's what they mean by argument. Where have you specifically met their experience, met or exceeded the experience that they want for the job? It shows the reader that you have these important skills and that you're a good match for their organization. Nobody's 100% match. Because if you're 100% match, you're probably overqualified for the job. But if you've got a lot of the skills, you want to enumerate that. And convince the company how they'll benefit from hiring from you. And include in each paragraph the strong reason why your employer should hire you and how they'll benefit from the relationship. Now, I was always taught to keep the cover letter brief. To have it like no more than 1, maybe 2 pages, 3 at the outset. But what I find in academia is not only are academics verbose, but that they like verbosity. So you can kind of go on a little bit more than you would say for a regular job. Regular job outside of academia, I'd say, boom, boom, 3 paragraphs, your opening, your whatever argument, your close, and that's it. But when we're talking about getting into academics, you can kind of wax on a bit. But you want to do this, maintain the upbeat, personable tone. Nobody wants to hire a downer. They want somebody that's going to make the office a fun place to come to, and avoid explaining your entire resume, but use your resume as a source to support your data. And finally, for the cover letter, the close. So your closing restates your main points, and that goes to any basic presentation, which I really didn't do today. But let me restate it now. So you tell them what you're going to tell them, then you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. That's the basis for any presentation. So our presentation today, our outline is the meditation, the introductions, the exercise, and the slideshow. And then we'll do some Q&A at the end. So that's what I'm going to tell you. Everybody's hanging out for the full thing, or anybody leaving? All right. All right. So then you just want to restate why you align with the missions and goals. Lately, I've been drawn to Leonardo da Vinci's final statement on his cover letters. If you knew that Leonardo actually applied for jobs, yes, he did. And he would say, "Oh, I have to." Are you looking for his quote?
No, I can.
Oh, okay. I was hoping you would, because I'm going to misquote. It's going to be a paraphrase. But he says that I can do anything that the job demands, basically. And so I've been quoting him, but I'm sure nobody knows I'm quoting him, because who knew that Leonardo had put this out there in the world? So anyway, it's like I can do anything, because I can do anything. You know, it's more or less, do I want to? That's really what holds you back. It's like, yeah, I can do that. Do I want to? I mean, I did get that PhD. Seems like I shouldn't have to do that anymore. So tell them when you're going to contact them. And, you know, I'm not usually as forthright. I mean, I usually say I am available, and you can contact me here. But, you know, depending on it, you could say, and I'll contact you in a week to see. I don't know. It depends on how you feel about it. I think I'm a little more wimpy. And maybe this is what some of us need, to be a little more aggressive. And then just thank them for their consideration and their time. Just because that's just polite. So that is the cover letter. Any questions about the cover letter?
So just to revisit something we said, pretty much normal jobs, keep it to a page.
I'd say.
But if it's an academic job or a university
You can
job,
wax on. You can wax on a bit. And yeah, a bit, but only as much as it applies to what they're looking for. I was just thinking of doing a review here at CIIS for a position that we filled. I mean, these cover letters were the longest cover letters I'd ever seen in my life. And I thought, not so professional. However, we did, you know, end up hiring from that pool, and everyone else felt fine about it. I wanted to say, as a former career development person, I feel that these letters suck and we should send them all back. But that's just not how it goes in academia. You can go on a bit. I wouldn't say too much. Okay, so the CV. That's because we didn't have any more questions about the cover letter. So the CV. So the CV is one of those things where you pick and choose what you put in it. You don't have to put in all of it, because not all of it's going to apply to you. I mean, some of us have extensive international travel. Some of us do not. Let's just point to some of us do not. You know, it depends. And, you know, if it adds to your experience, definitely put it in there. And what doesn't, leave out. Also, you know, you can pitch it to whatever you're looking for specifically. So if you know you're applying for something international, you know you're applying abroad, and your sense of living abroad and being comfortable in other cultures, other situations applies, throw it in there. I pretty much have a standard CV, but I'm willing to tweak it. And I think tweaking it would be helpful to get more attention in different ways. And that's why I give you the different samples, to look at different ways where you can mix it up and change things. So the standard CV can have a header or a footer. Typically we have a footer or a header just because it's going to be more than one page for the CV. The CV is where you just you can throw in the kitchen sink. But I would say your kitchen sink should hopefully relate to teaching. And if you have things in your kitchen sink that don't, you might want to put it at other job experience, other work experience, because these things may be valuable to what you're doing. I was in charge of a $28 million contract for a number of years. And invariably, although it does not specifically relate to teaching, people like to know that you could be in charge of a program and be trusted with funds. So anyway, so that's just an aside, and that's a non-teaching job. So the header, the footer, your education, dissertation, honors awards, teaching experience, research, other work. So that would go under the other work, the multi-million-dollar contract. Publications, other possible headings, etc. And not only do you have these headings, but they can be in different orders. So whatever it is you want to emphasize, like since I'm looking mostly at teaching jobs, my teaching experience goes directly under my education and dissertation. And then I have my publications. And then I have my presentations, so conference papers. So my resume or my CV is definitely geared more toward teaching, because I want to grab them with what I feel would interest them and be applicable to the job before they get bored and say, yeah, whatever else. So make sure that you include the means for people to contact you on your CV. So if the best way to get you is your cell phone, people don't have home phones anymore. But put your cell phone on there, or your email address, or whatever. Just make sure that whatever it is how they can contact you, and as many means of contacting you as possible. I remember when this was more applicable to me when I was an undergrad, having a current address and a permanent address than it is now. I only got one address, so you can only meet me. Age and inclusive. It depends. Everything depends on this. So for some of your education, you may want to include your classes, your major, your field, because that's kind of what you're looking for. You're looking for doing. You're looking at doing maybe something in the humanities or something in whatever, religion, etc. So then maybe you want to include more of your classes and more of an emphasis and specialization there. But I don't inundate them too much. I personally, under my education, I also have a link to my dissertation, because my dissertation is it's online. So this is a great way for them to see my teaching and to know if my dissertation applies to their skills. MA, MS institution, degree, minor, BA. You guys have multiple degrees in here? What are you working on?
Expressive work.
So is that MA?
That's
MA. And we got a PhD over here. How do you do you have MA? EWP. So you're MA and PhD. Amen?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so you're going to go ahead and do grad here? That's what people typically do, just for you.
There's been that conversation in several directions towards it.
It's like, hey, you got the debt, might as well go out of the way. What the heck? So anyway, so you would list them here in education. I typically list my education first, but again, I said it's because I'm going for the teaching degree and it applies. But it depends. It really depends on what you're looking for, what specifically you want. So dissertation, I definitely, in the education, I haven't pulled it apart from that. And I haven't included a 4 or 5 sentence abstract or summary with the content and methodology. I think that that would be more applicable if I was going for more of a research degree instead of a teaching job. Then they'd care more about that. The fact that I'm teaching in the humanities, they just care that I've got the degree and I can be a live body in front of the students. So this level of detail doesn't matter as much. But you pay attention to what you need and what you want and what would be applicable to you. I do have an honors and awards section, but I also I put that with travel / study abroad because I have such extensive abroad study that I was like, I gotta throw it in there somewhere. And I think that, like I said before about travel, I think it kind of makes a statement that I'm comfortable in other cultures. I'm comfortable in areas that I'm learning. Also, if you're in an interview and they want to talk about somewhere you've been, that's fine. So this is an area you can put in there or not. It depends. I'd say if you've got more than a couple things, it might need its own place. If you say just have one award and it's related to a particular institution, then I might put that award along with your education. So breaking out something really depends on the number of things. Do you want it to stand out that you just have one award? Or do you want it to stand out that you have an award associated with your university? You've got the University of Michigan Student of the Year. That might look nice. And then you didn't do anything else regarding awards, then don't have its own little breakout section. So what section to use on the CV really depends on, do you need it? Is it big enough? Would you agree with my career professionals?
Yeah, definitely. I think you can get creative and organized if you want to sneak it in there, right?
Mhm.
Just what are the other things you want to include? Is there like a theme or collective?
Yeah, exactly.
If one outstanding thing is like, oh, is that all you?
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of
Very
red
true.
flags it,
Yeah.
rather than if you had it with the institution where it's like, oh, it really stands out. It's funny. It's such a small distinction, such a small thing, but it really does make a difference. You can glow. So teaching experience, position, institution, descriptive titles, of course, is taught. If you have extensive experience, then you want to keep this minimal. If you have minimal experience or less experience, then I think you can expand on it and what you've done in the class and how you've taught it, etc. Questions regarding this? You looked questioning, Heidi.
Yeah, how would you categorize guest lectures and independent studies?
I put that under presentations. Presentations, yeah. So under my presentations, I have all the conferences I've attended and papers I've delivered. I don't include conferences where I didn't deliver a paper. I don't. I don't know. That's me. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could, but no, I don't. I guess you could. I mean, I guess if it were important, but I feel like you shouldn't unless you've had some vital role with it. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, only conference presentations are just based on my dissertation.
That's fine.
Different aspects of it.
Yep. Yep. As long as you got a new title, it's a new presentation. Yeah.
But it's not like only one resulting in a publication.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. No, it's really good. I'd say we all dance around a theme in life, but maybe it's because I'm Buddhist, I think. But it seems like we often revisit the same thing over and over again. So I think it's fine to have it the same thing, just have different titles for it and different conferences. And if you did present under one title, then I would have the title listed and then the conferences underneath. You know, maybe like this year at this conference, that year at this conference, something like that. So I changed the formatting a little bit. The way I have mine now, I have the conference and then the title of the presentation, etc. But if you were to do it the other way, you could have your conference or your title of your presentation and then the conference is where you presented it. So it's just putting different emphasis on your syllables. You put emphasis on your syllables all the time. Too. So research experience. Does anybody come in with a research background? Not really, huh? Nor I. So we do not care about this. But if one were to have a research background and go for a research position, that's when one would care about this. So we'll move on to publications. So what I like about this is that not only are you including all of your publications under your publications, but the work in progress or submitted yet not accepted. You know what that means? It means that you can submit to the most prestigious journals in the world. Now, they may reject you outright the moment they get your letter, but as long as it's in the mail, it's in progress. It's just something to think about. Maybe a little underhanded way to think about it. I don't know. But, you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. My first publication came before I realized it was difficult to be published. And after I realized that people were saying, it's hard to get published, it's just, the mojo's gone, because now I realize, oh, really? Why did they accept me? Was I worthy? I don't know, you know, so I have that behind me, but thank God I already got something published before I knew it was hard. So there's bliss in ignorance. Because, yeah, you know, I was more willing to send things out. Now I think a lot more before I do anything, before I go out. Am I worthy? Will they all know? I don't know. I don't know. Whereas before I was just like, hey, you guys should publish this. And they did. Yeah, okay. So anyway, but works in progress is a very important and key thing. Yes, ma'am.
Would you include only scholarly publications or articles in popular magazines as well?
That is interesting. I would include articles and magazines as well. I would. I don't know if you agree with that, Michael, but I have a couple of, it's like, I don't know what I call it. Is it like a blog post? Maybe it's like an online magazine. I don't know what they call themselves, but it's feminism and religion. And I have a couple of posts to that. And my posts are academic posts, you know? So I know that some people post to it and sometimes they get all touchy-feely and stuff, you know, and it's not as academic. But mine, I stood by mine. And so, what? Because
No, I promise I'll address it later.
Okay, so I put the link there, and you know, they can look at it and see. So I would include it. I have a friend. It's interesting you said magazine, because I have a friend that's supposed to be involved in the magazine, and I've submitted to her, but I don't know if they got the magazine together. But I will definitely include that too, because again, it's touching on the theme of my life, which keeps going around and around the same circles, you know. So the publication doesn't matter as much as what I said in it, and I'll stand behind it. You like that? The publication doesn't matter as much as what you said?
Yes.
Yeah, because it makes a statement about who I am. And I think that that's what matters. We're already here at CIIS. We've already made a big statement in our lives by being here, I think. So, no mainstream for me. So, other work experience. You know, this is where I throw in things that were other than teaching jobs. Actually, you know, for me, this is like when I was gainfully employed, I did this. And that's kind of how it's listed. And now I'm a volunteer, AKA teacher. And so that goes under other work experience. Also, I have to throw in, well, let me go on this. I'm moving forward. I didn't mean to. Other possible headings. For me, I have a great deal of volunteer experience. I've never not volunteered since, I think since I got out of college, maybe high school. Yeah, but when you get out of high school, you go to college. So I've had this extensive amount of volunteer experience. So I just have volunteer experience under its own heading. And I do that because so much of what I would like to do professionally is also related to my volunteer experience. For example, now I do a lot of chaplaincy work. And so I would love to work in something that's like academic chaplaincy that combines the two. So including that in my volunteer experience is valuable. So, and other possible headings. So we talked about conferences, having that, especially in academia, we tend to attend a lot of conferences. I haven't done a lot of academic service because I haven't been called to do a lot of committee work. However, I've been a board member for a lot of things, so I include that. And I include my board member work under volunteer services. I end my CV with my professional memberships. Now I don't do this because I think that's a bit much. I guess I could. So this was, Heidi, you were talking about this, the attendance at conferences and meetings can be noted. So that's something that that would fall under professional memberships. I'd say, you know, depends on how long your CV is. And if you think that it would lend, I don't know, give us a swagger. I don't know. I include my professional memberships only because I think my professional memberships highlight what I want to do, which is keeping oh look, she's already this. Language skills. I don't know, it depends. I mean, I think it depends a lot on your fluency. Language skills come up more for me at the resume level than the CV. It's usually when I'm applying for things that require bilingual or whatever. Not that I am bilingual at all, but I have some proficiency. So that's where you get kind of the languaging you use. I am Spanish language proficient, meaning if I were stuck in Spain, I think I could get home. However, if you wanted some complex thoughts and conversation, you would not want to talk to me. Yeah. So you have to be careful where you throw that about. You wouldn't want to be stuck in a bilingual situation. Yes.
I was just gonna say, as far as language, there can also be like maybe some other applications. I mean, like if you're doing something that was maybe incredibly specialized or something like that, then it almost had its own language, not necessarily Spanish or English or anything else, but
True.
it had its own language that other people that if for some reason they either had contact or interaction with that particular field or specialization, that they would recognize that as a language also.
Yes.
And so then that would also be a way to highlight you and be able to say, hey, by the way, like,
Wonderful.
you know, like you're Buddhist, and also because of your Buddhist chaplaincy and stuff like that, if you were able to like somehow highlight like Buddhist values and incorporate that as a language and saying, hey, by the way, like this, because you're ultimately trying to show yourself. And so showing yourself saying, hey, by the way, not only am I showing myself, these are some of the values that associate endorsement too.
Right. Right. Well, so I have. It's interesting you mentioned that. So I don't have language skills so much, but I have other education. I can't remember what it's listed under. I don't know. But other education, because I've taken so many things.
Okay.
And so I've taken. So I've listed them as courses. So I've had like ancient Spanish, and I've had a lot of Tibetan study. Now, if you put me in the middle of Tibet, I could not get home. But I'm an American. Somebody send me home. Yes, I would be the ugly American in some situations. But yeah, I could definitely see that. And when you were talking, what I was also thinking about was some computer languages, which are, their own speciality and really deserve attention. So, and yeah, miscellaneous categories. You can make just make it. Think of it as making it as accessible to people as possible, and yeah, just making it as accessible as possible. So, I did have some job search or resume websites up here, and I didn't double check them, but they were good at the time I made this. Particularly, I wanted to go to susanireland.com and recheck that. There's another one I would have put on here that I didn't, which is Vitae, Vitae. And Vitae is a career resource specifically for education and teaching. And they have counselors. Sorry, we have counselors in this room. But they also have CV counselors and workshops. And what I like about them is when you get on their newsletter, they send you different tips for what to look for, how to apply, these kind of things. And those come out once a week. Yeah, once a week they have something in detail. You guys, are you familiar with that? It's Chronicle of Education.
Yeah, I think it's once a week.
Once a week? Yeah.
So it's VITAE.
AE. Yeah. And it's from the Chronicle of Education. Or Chronicle of Higher Ed. Chronicle of Higher Ed. So that concludes what I wanted to present for the CV. So now we can do Q&A. Q?
I have a question. What do you think about when you think about cover letter and CV being submitted together? Do you think the cover letter should be highlighting and diving deeper into some of the details on the CV, or should it be representing other things that maybe aren't included in the CV?
Yes, I hear you. It's like, well, if it's not included in your CV, why? Did you not have enough time? I mean, why didn't you make a new CV to state this? I would say everything that you mention in the cover letter should be mentioned in the CV, and that the cover letter is your opportunity to go more in depth. So it could be a line on your CV, and then you want to say, well, wait a minute, this is what I did and what you don't know, what's not apparent. I'm not thinking teaching right now. Let me think teaching. one of the things that I do specifically in teaching is I'm a first-year experience teacher. So first-year experience, I think first-year experience has been around now maybe about 3 or 4 years. And it specifically came about because that transition from high school to college is a difficult time, you know. I can think back. Yeah, but it's a difficult time. I always remember in my freshman year, I had a cake, and you know, when I was home, my mother would say things like, "Don't eat all that cake; you'll ruin your appetite." And I had a piece of cake, and I put it away, and then I realized, my mom's not here. I can do anything, and I ate that cake, and I got so sick. I ate the whole cake. And it was like, wow, Mom, you're right. You shouldn't eat the whole cake. Well, you know, the first year experience program is just kind of a way to help people transition. And so I like to talk more specifically about the experience of helping people transition and how they transition. That I don't think comes it means nothing unless you're in the field, you know, then it means everything. So just being more explicit, and I think cover letters. I'm telling academic, like, who was a yes/no question? No, my husband used to say that to me. Like, before you went to CIIS, you used to be able to say yes and no. Now everything's a story. Can you relate to this, man? You know,
it was like this before, but going here is like turned everything into an essay.
Yes.
So yes, I was just saying somebody the other day, and they're like, I said yes and no, and they're like, that's a CIS answer. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I don't know what that means, though.
There is no duality, you know. That's why. Anyway. When I go around, like I can go around in a classroom of 30 students in undergrad, and we could be done with introductions in under 5 minutes. Actually, I always have to go around twice. Can I catch those names? Can we elaborate a little bit? But, you know, I've gone around in similar circles at CIIS, and 2 hours later say, you know, we really need to get to the topic. I know you all are fascinating. But please, can we move on? So anything else? Was it clear that you can move these section subheadings around and to suit yourself and whatever? And you can form your own schools, and you can do your own things too. And, you know, feel free to do that in teaching. Yeah. No?
Oh, I'm just taking in everything.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So feel free to do that. I know of a group of a couple of women that put together their own printing press and offer online courses, and you know they're always like looking for teachers for that. It's the only thing is that these things aren't as lucrative, and it's so unfortunate that we have rent to pay. Because if we could just live the lives we wanted to live, it would be so much better.
Do you think it would be worth it? Like, if I'm applying for a job in Vermont, they're going to see I'm in California. Do you think it'd be worth it mentioning, you know, my desire to relocate in a cover letter?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what you do in a cover letter. That's exactly what you do. I remember applying for a part-time job and explaining that I was applying for the part-time job because I was a student working on my dissertation, and that this fit perfectly within the time frame that I wanted. Yeah. So, and they brought me in for the interview right away because they're like, "Oh, look, you've got all this experience, and yeah, this is why you fit." So it kind of answered their question, because I think that they say things like, "Well, why does she want to move to Vermont? She's in California. She doesn't know a thing about us. You know?
Have you ever found in situations like that that the places, okay, so there's a mutual conversation, like you apply to someplace in Vermont says like, okay, fine, like we might have an interest in you. Do you ever find either institutions or sometimes people like either reaching out or being able to like help in compensation as far as like saying, hey, like we'll help you to get here in order to like come for an interview or something like that? Or is it just like, hey, all at your own expense? Because I've encountered that too. That I'm like, hey, we want you, but get yourself here, do it by yourself, do everything, and then if you're good enough, I'm like, wait a minute, like that's a whole lot of everything on my end, and like what really is this part of the conversation is
Right. Well, I guess you could negotiate it.
Sure. I would be hesitant. I mean,
Yeah.
from my experience,
Yeah.
you know, they might do an initial phone interview or something.
Sure.
If someone's going to invite you in for an in-person interview as a finalist, they should be compensating you for that.
that's what I would think also.
And if they're not prepared to do that, then I would be wary of them as an employer.
And that's what I thought too. Thank you, because that's kind of that's been my gut feeling on that one too.
So my most recent interview did take place first on Skype, and I don't know how many people they interviewed on Skype, but then they brought 3 finalists in. And the other thing I noticed with these academic interviews is the interview went from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Yeah, and it included a teaching demo on my part. But when I teach teaching skills, that's what we do. We get our teaching demo in. It's fun. But yeah, I really like it. It's
I would just add to that point about moving, like I would even give some insight into why you're interested in moving, you know, and is it that you're interested to move anywhere, or specifically to Vermont or New England, and is there a reason or a goal? I know when I'm reading
Mom's
curriculum,
there.
yeah, and so I think people would be like, you know,
Know the seriousness.
yeah, and be like, oh, if she's weighing other options, we're going to be even more attractive because like her mom's here too.
Well, maybe just say family, because if you say
Yeah,
mom,
yeah,
then I'm
say
thinking
family.
Alzheimer's, and I'm thinking you gotta take care of her.
Yeah.
If you say family, my family's from Vermont,
Yeah,
then that kind of takes you off the hook. You're not the caregiver. Sorry. But I mean, that's the subtext.
What
Yeah.
about getting out of the city? Is that a good reason too? Is that a reason that people want to hear?
Well, maybe that's more of a negative spin on something. I want to
Yeah,
get out of the
stay
city
upbeat,
instead of I'm looking
Stay
for a more rural location where people get to know their neighbors, you know, something like that. Right, because you want to maintain that upbeat. And I want somebody that wants to be here, not somebody that's running away from something.
That's true.
It's a different
But very much
mindset.
Good, but of course it's also still important to say why you should not particular institution.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you should ask the question like, just looking for any old job in Vermont.
That's much true.
But yeah, so this is what the value of the internet is too. Just, you know, and if you know you're looking for something in Vermont, then I would send out your resume or your CV to all the institutions and all the places where they have jobs that you're possibly interested in. Like, you're interested in the humanities or?
That's the tricky thing. Because I mean, I see I could be in a psychology program, but not really. I could be in a philosophy program, but not really. I could. My dream would be to be part of a core curriculum. I think a lot of undergrad students now, schools now, are doing these kind of like core experience.
Like my
you're
CP, yeah.
You know. So, in that sense, I could be a humanities professor because I could help students with writing and research and also personal integration and self-inquiry.
So do your homework. Figure out the schools in the area, look at the programs that they have, find out who is the head of the department or whatever, and send your cover letter and CV to those people. Don't wait for a job to be posted. Okay. Yeah, be proactive. Before I moved to San Francisco, I had 2 jobs. And I got one of the jobs from sending it to, this is like back in the day, I've been here 25 years. But I got the one job because I just looked at things I want to do. And I was like, oh yeah, Lighthouse for the Blind. I would like to do that. And so then they hired me as their, yeah. So I got those over the phone. And they hired me as their volunteer coordinator or whatever. But I got a more lucrative position, so I had to oh, sorry, I found money. But I volunteered with them for a while. So that's how I made it. So, but do that. Just be more proactive. Go out there.
That's a good point too, actually, because Craig did a little roundtable discussion, and he said he got his first teaching job by just emailing the place he wanted to work and writing letters saying how he could complement the existing faculty.
And that's it, and that's important. And remember, you've got a PhD. People like PhDs. It helps them get accreditation. You know, it matters. And I insist that my students call me doctor or professor. And I say I do this not just for my ego, but I'm not going to lie to you, my ego likes it too. But because I'm making a political statement. I'm saying, here I am, I'm a woman, I'm a person of color, and years from now, you may not remember me, my name, my face, or anything about me. I'm just talking about my own undergrad experience there, it's all a haze. But I want you to remember the fact that a woman and a person of color can get a PhD. That this is something that is attainable. If I did it, you can do it too. So this is my political statement. I am a political person.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you.
Nick, you could start from, I think, maybe 15 minutes.